All right, what is up, guys? Coming at you with another Blacklisted Voice podcast, or Be the Exception podcast. Sorry. We have Grey Group Tactical here. We have Mark and Steve from Grey Group Tactical. They're going to be telling us a little bit more about their company. They sponsor the Atlanta Wild right now, and they've also helped us out with some weight vests and been up around us in the Roswell area. They're local to Atlanta, and they also are involved in the QRFUp organization that is going to be helping us with our Frozen 4 fundraiser coming up in December. We're going to be donating proceeds and sponsorship to their organization. So they're here to kind of talk about a little bit more about their organization, their company, and yeah, thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah, thanks, man. We appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
For sure, for sure. So you guys want to give us a little bit more about just your background in the military? Tell us a little bit more about yourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Go for it, buddy. You can go first. I appreciate it.
Hey, so I recently exited the military after 11 years. I was an infantry guy in the Army. Got to see a few different sides of it, but the bottom line is I'm pretty good at walking for a long time, carrying heavy stuff.
It teaches you to be homeless.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
live in a trash bag like
Yeah.
really well.
Facts.
But no, I learned a lot of great things, met a lot of fantastic leaders. The Army is a leadership factory, and I will never take that away from them. That is what they do. They can take anyone from any background, give them a really decent framework on how to lead other people and set examples. And then generally people take that with them and carry it with them the rest of their life. And I fantastically benefited from that. I had a great time doing it. Yeah, practice walking a bit and learn how to generally gel people into teams.
Yeah.
What I keep learning everywhere we go is everything is about collaboration, and everything is about pulling the talents that Mark may have on a daily basis and meshing them with the pieces that I have to make the overall whole picture stronger than it was before. Finished up at what's now called Fort Moore, Georgia. It's a couple hours south of Atlanta. Over in the SFAB, which is like an advisor thing, where I met Mark, and had a great time doing so. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I was medically retired, just shy of about 15 years of service, and interesting point with it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of one of the big reasons why I support the nonprofits that I do, and where that all stands. But again, I spent majority of my life in the infantry world as well too. Kind of going through everything. As I finished up, my platoon sergeant time, I ended up getting kind of sucked into the SFAB game as well, where I helped stand up that organization and set some of that stuff up. And then I met Steve there, and him and I, we knew each other, we talked, but we weren't friends.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like we just weren't. And then when I exited the military, I took that little bit of time to kind of figure out who I was and what I wanted to be. An opportunity presented itself, and I ran with it with Grey Group. And at that point, I was, I don't know, about 6-8 months into really with Grey. And I pulled Steve over when he kind of reached out. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing." He's like, "Oh, well, I'm about to go work at the jelly factory, and I don't want to do that because it sounds miserable."
Wait, like an actual jelly factory?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Just because this needs to be said. So I knew Mark a little bit when we were working together in the same unit. But what I did know and did pick up on was that he was an entrepreneurial, artistic, creative. I'm not going to use the word genius because that may not be quite appropriate yet. We'll see some metrics first.
Yeah.
But seriously serious entrepreneurial streak.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's going to do something very cool. Let me reach out to this dude. What is he doing? I don't know what it is yet, but it's something awesome. So that was like a key component. I was like, this is the right guy doing something.
Yeah.
Let me
Okay.
figure out what that is.
Yeah.
And that definitely kind of jives with our business philosophies and our business roles as well.
Yeah.
You'll hear about that here in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, we ended up kind of putting that together, and Steve came up, and now he's my right hand and he never leaves my side.
That's
So
awesome.
if you generally see me, you're going to see Steve.
Yeah. Steve, so what about Mark kind of gave that away or gave that impression to you while you guys were in?
Yeah, so while we're in the same unit, this advisor unit, read that as consulting, basically, right? You put groups of experts in different fields or different functional areas together, and
Mhm.
they make teams, they go observe things and provide recommendations to make
Mm.
other organizations either function more smoothly or provide fresh frameworks for decision-making processes. It's really
Okay.
just consulting.
Yeah.
To Army words advisor, it could be consulting, same kind of thing.
Yep.
But what I did know is that Mark had written almost all of the doctrine that I had to learn and use. So,
Okay. Yeah.
super highbrow, intelligent guy. I learned this stuff. I used it in.
As an NCO, by the way, just to be clear about that, right? Like, I didn't play the officer games, so go
Yeah,
ahead.
right.
Yeah, so I officered it. I read the doctrine. I was trained to do things a certain way and used it successfully. And then I found out that Mark had written most of the doctrine himself. And I was like, this is the guy. We need to talk to Mark.
We need to talk. Yeah. That's awesome.
And it worked.
Mark,
So I was like,
what
clearly, if he
kind of
knows
like
what he's doing, I'm going to listen to this guy.
yeah, what kind of inspired you to write that? Like I always get curious about what guys are in and they write out, pubs for things and stuff like that. Like what kind of inspired you to do that?
Being voluntold. So yeah, no, that's one of the answers, right?
Yeah.
But the other one is, when you stand up an organization and you're flying by the seat of your pants consistently, it's got to be with the right people, right? Like at the
Mhm.
end of the day, the right people are so important. And this is kind of a multi-part answer, just to be clear with you about it, but
Yeah.
and it applies to business strategy as well. So when everyone was recruited to that organization originally, they pulled from some of the best people, right?
Mhm.
Like the first team when I showed up that I jumped into was hands down some of the best military leaders I'd ever worked with, and I've been all over the place and in some pretty outstanding units,
Mhm.
right? That you got to work really hard to stay competitive at.
Yeah.
We'll kind of leave that there. But it's the people that were involved with all of that were outstanding.
Mhm.
Um, and that drives such a mentality in those organizations that you're consistently competing to be the best,
Mhm.
but yet you're doing it together as a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so obviously some folks found out that I had some skill sets, um, outside of just, being super cool. But that kind of dove into that, and I was asked to be a part of it, and I don't ever do anything kind of half-assed, right? I
Mhm.
was asked to do a small portion of it, um, and I ended up doing a bigger portion of it, and that bigger portion ended up being a good chunk. So
Got it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that competitive drive as a team is like so hard to teach people, but like sometimes it just happens so naturally in the military and it just creates some of the coolest things that nobody will ever hear about.
right.
So that's awesome. So yeah, okay. So you got out, Mark, you started Grey Group. Steve,
Yep.
you kind of reached out to Mark about that. Mark, can you just kind of talk through kind of the history, like what prompted you to start it and then kind of where you guys are at
Yeah.
now?
So it originally started a few years back. Obviously it was not called Grey Group at that time.
Hmm.
But a friend of mine kind of reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I've got this company. I'm still in the army." He had talked to me about it about 2 years ago, is when he was talking to me about going in and buying it and partnering with him. And I told him no. I'm like, no, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Um, Mainly because I just wanted when I was gonna eventually make my exit and retire. Um, I was just like, man, like I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be in that space anymore. I
Hmm.
just want to do something.
Didn't you want to kind of paint motorcycles and
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. I just had a whole plan that I was just gonna get out and paint motorcycles. Um, but life changes, and I'm a firm believer if somebody comes and asks for your help on something, and it's an opportunity for both of you to be successful, you take it.
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's kind of the constant pivot of life. And if you just let those opportunities pass you by, you're not successful.
Right.
So, Jay kind of came to me and was like, "Hey, I've got this. This is where I'm at right now. I need help." And I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna do that. Let's do it. But we've got to do it a little bit differently, and we got to make some changes to stuff. And at the end of the day, I want to just get rid of everything that you've got now and start it completely fresh."
Mm.
And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to kind of show the onus of that, right? So, Kyle, let me ask you a question. How long do you think it would take to go from an idea to having an operational manufacturing facility?
Oh man, a year, 1.5 years, maybe.
It took me 45 days
Wow.
to go from idea, money ready to come in,
Mm-hmm.
to operational facility, making equipment.
Wow. Yeah.
And that is the power of the right people,
Yeah.
right? So when you put the right people in the room, you get things done at a very different level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when we really started kind of working at Gray Group, one of the main premise and kind of like principles of it was who are we going to target, who are we going to go after,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how we set it up was based around our three main core values of durability, comfortability, washability,
Okay.
right? So, and I know you've heard me say it, and everybo's heard me say it, right? I beat that horse till it's dead.
But Mark,
But
before we go here, can you just
yep.
kind of give people like what is Gray Group
Oh
exactly?
yeah, of course, man. So Gray Group, we are a tactical OEM manufacturer, meaning the
Mm-hmm.
original equipment manufacturer. There are only a couple within the United States currently that actually manufacture all of their own equipment completely in house,
Okay.
right? So the main difference is, and you can go, to some of the other competition companies, right? I'm not going to name drop, call people out because that's rude, but majority of them don't actually make their own equipment in house. It's all
Mm.
subcontracted.
Okay.
That is not what we are,
Yeah.
right? So we make tactical vests, we make other accessories, and we have a fitness vest line that we make specifically for kind of the CrossFit and workout and functional fitness space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess I should have started with that, huh?
All good. All good.
I get ahead of
Now,
myself, boys.
yeah. Now that people know.
Yep, I go too fast sometimes. Sorry, y'all. Um, but yeah, no, we make different vests. We are currently, in the middle of an acquisition of bringing Armor under the fold, as
Awesome.
well as some other training resources, and then hopefully ramping up to a little bit bigger picture of having training facilities across the United States.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, so kind of getting back to where you're going with that, right people in the room.
Yep.
For
Um, yeah, man. If you put the right people in the right places, and it just makes things so much simpler
mm-hmm.
because everybody knows what they're doing and how to get things done. A
Mm-hmm.
little bit of general direction, right? Like I don't ever tell Steve what to do, ever,
Yeah.
right? Like Steve's like, "Hey, I've got this going on. I want to do this, this, and this. What's your insight on it?" We make out a quick strategy of it, and Steve comes back in an hour with all of a plethora of information that him and I then go decipher through, right? And then, boom, here comes contracts out of it.
Yeah.
So,
But some of that comes from the way that you just naturally work as an entrepreneur. You,
yes,
you don't want to micromanage things, you want to delegate. But some of it comes from a trained environment that we picked up several times in the
yep,
military where it's delegation may not be the right word. It's just plain collaboration.
yeah,
Like if you're on a small
Mm-hmm.
team, it's different than a highly structured larger organization.
right,
A small team, this person may be an expert in something. They may not have the rank, doesn't matter. They're leading this project.
yep,
Great.
Mm-hmm.
This person's an expert over here. So you learn what people are good at and you just send them on their merry way.
yeah,
And some of
Yeah.
us does that very well.
So, and I think the entire team does that well. You know what I mean? Because we have the ability, to operate within our business rules, which it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah, sweet, sweet. So what are some of your guys' kind of goals coming up here? I know you're branching into grid. You got in contact with Valor Fitness now. What are some of your goals coming up here? Maybe more so on the fitness side of things than the tactical side of things.
Yeah, man. So I'm actually trying to work something up right now with the Summit Games as well.
Okay.
Um, and then we've got some other stuff potentially coming out with a couple other different, places. I know we work well with Sawmill. Um, so
That was a cool
that
facility.
was a very cool facility out in South Carolina. I keep wanting to say North Carolina, but it's in South
They
Carolina.
just
Near
need to
Greenville.
combine.
Um, but yeah, we work with the Sawmill Showdown from Full Auto
Okay.
Fitness as well. And that is, I want to say, in the same space as the tactical games,
Okay.
but just kind of more of it as a localized event in
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina. But he does get a lot of people from all over the place. Jeremy he's an awesome dude, man.
Yeah,
Um, Super fun. I will have to link you two up because you guys will definitely jive.
for sure.
Just don't be
Awesome.
intimidated because he's like fucking 6'8" and 280 pounds.
Just
He's a
yoked.
giant. Yeah, he's just a
He's
giant.
a hell of an athlete
Yeah.
in his own right.
He is, but he's a super good dude. Um, just an absolute beast. But yeah, we so as we kind of branch into fitness, um, which it is difficult for companies to do, especially manufacturing companies,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and I'll kind of curtail with that too is because we cover down in the obviously civil defense industry, which is an entire beast in its own.
Mm-hmm.
Branching into fitness goes against majority of market strategies.
Right.
Um, but again, I don't always follow market strategies because then you're just doing the same thing that everybody else does
Mm-hmm.
and you don't actually get any different results.
Well, it
Mm-hmm.
also goes in with one of Grey Group's core
Yep,
ideas, which is disrupt the industry.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I mean? And if we want to do disruption, we have to hit things at several different industries.
Mm-hmm.
We found out through actual athletes who were using the equipment and doing those different things that they worked very, very well in the fitness space um, over everything else. So one of the kind of main pushes we had was ensuring that they fit women and youth, right? So and that can be used on both the tactical space as well as the fitness space.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
because there isn't a carrier system on the market that fits women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes into kind of what I was talking earlier about our three core values of our comfortability, durability, and washability.
Yeah.
So as we kind of dive into that, it's how do we get something that fits more than one body type,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody makes a carrier system that fits military age males. Like, cool story,
Yeah.
bro. Nobody cares, right?
Right.
There's hundreds of them out there. That's awesome. Congratulations. You figured it out. The design hasn't changed much,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Getting it to where we can actually grade. And for those of y'all who aren't in the nylon business, right, that is just a very fancy way of saying sizing.
Okay.
We grade at two different levels, right? So we grade one for plate size and then two for actual like person size.
Okay.
And we did it based off of t-shirts, right?
Okay.
Like we took a very complex process and simplified it to where everybody can understand it. If you wear a medium t-shirt, guess what? You wear a medium carrier,
That's awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Um, it it's how it works. And I know when we were down at the gym with you, you kind of saw us as we were sizing everybody up
Mm-hmm.
and running through it. I do it pretty quick now. Um, so
Yeah.
I think we got like 20 people sized up in like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, it's we offer something different, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we use elastic cumberbands as well. So in the tactical space, it's a mixture view because re-indexing, right? It's always going to be an issue. Um, However, if you're looking at something that's going to be a little bit more concealable, that is definitely more lightweight,
Mm-hmm.
um, and still has the capability of holding 9 magazines out of the box, right? Like we have an option for you.
Yeah.
If you want something just for the fitness space that you don't want to have any low carrying capability, we have that for you as well, which is a much more breathable material that we use for it.
Mhm.
Can I jump in on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the CrossFit space specifically and the rest of functional fitness, like what you don't want, and I think we've all done this, is the time when there's like a hero WOD, let's say Chad that you may have done on Veterans Day, or
Mhm.
Murph that you do around the 4th of July. I think everyone's familiar with the Murph. What you don't want is for it to bounce around because you wear it that
Yep.
one time a year, and you're not practiced with it, you're not familiar with it. So you grab whatever weight vest you may have, right? In the
Mhm.
past, I've had a weight vest that I got at probably some sporting goods store, don't know. And then
Yeah.
you run and it whacks you in the chest or it's whacking you in the stomach while you're trying to breathe. You're trying to do pull ups and it's doing something. It's not what you want it
Like
to do.
knocking your teeth out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
That's one
Good
of the
luck doing
biggest
handstand
complaints.
push ups. It's not part of Murph, but if you do, that's good luck with that.
Yeah.
You're doing push ups in Murph and it's like it's hitting the ground before it's just weird.
Yeah.
The whole idea with the XFIT carriers that we make is that it sticks to you. It just doesn't move.
Yeah.
Like it's what you want. It's
Right.
like a shirt that's maybe I wear mediums, but like
Yeah.
it's you're welcome. But like, yeah, it's like a shirt. It just sticks on you like it's supposed to, and it doesn't
Yeah.
move around.
Yeah.
That's what we've
Right.
all wanted, and now I found a solution.
Yeah. 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 We had quite a few people up here wearing them, and I think the biggest complaint in the fitness space is, at least in the CrossFit space, is like doing muscle ups and just getting your chin pulverized. And I
Yep.
think, a couple of years ago at semifinals, they made the switch to backpacks with GoRuck, but like, the weight's only distributed on one portion of the body. It's not distributed on both sides. So they're lacking something there in the fitness side. So it's awesome you guys can bring something to actually kind of fill that void.
Yeah. Yeah, we can tell them about Adam. So, I was actually talking to you about it prior to the podcast and stuff like that too, and just basic fitness stuff too, right? Like, so our friend Adam, who I was, we had that conversation about, went and lost around 100 pounds over
Okay.
the last year, right? Um, he's an absolute giant monster now, but
Aquaman.
yeah, he looks like Aquaman. You're gonna love him.
Sweet.
But he goes and puts one of our weight vests on every morning and he
Okay.
walks. He started with literally getting up and walking just down to the end of his block and back, and now every morning, he walks 4 miles?
Something like that.
Yeah, he walks 4
That's
miles with
awesome.
his dogs every morning in a weighted vest,
Yeah.
right? Dropped 100 pounds just by doing something as simple as that and getting himself back into shape through discipline.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes through and he wears that vest every day. He's upped his weight in it. You know what I mean? He's been able to do so much with it that it's been able to kind of pull his life around. You know what I mean? Like it's been huge for him.
Yeah.
And then obviously with that, the transition phase and everything like that, right? Like I'll let him jump on a podcast with you and tell you his whole story.
Totally. Yeah.
But
Sounds like a great one.
he's an amazing human, and his dedication to rebuilding himself after the military and using his connections to better himself and his business and everything is huge. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It absolutely is. But then too, right, like that kind of transitions into the other kind of component or core value of what Gray does. And the carrier systems we have are machine washable,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there isn't another carrier system on the market that does that.
Right.
And we cracked the code on it, right? And by all means, this was not me who did it. Because I'll be totally transparent. I don't sew. All right. I've touched the sewing machines a few times. I've broken them. So I steer clear of that. I fixed them.
That.
I know. I fixed them.
Yeah.
Now when they're broken, I've got that figured out. It's only because sewing machines are just like machine guns. They have head space and timing, and that's how you fix them.
Yeah.
So my brain is a little different, but all right. But yeah, man, we brought in the right people. Again, it goes back to the right team
Mm-hmm.
and bringing in the right people who have a way greater understanding of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I put out the end state of what we wanted. And they said, this is how I think we can do it. Let's try this. We tried and failed a few times, and we've got it figured out. I've got a carrier right now that has over 600 washers on it.
That's crazy.
So, and when you talk to Adam too, talk to him about it.
Yeah.
And he's washed his carrier now 3 times over the course of the last year. And
Hmm.
he's like, dude, it got grungy, it got gross, it was disgusting. And he's
Yeah.
like, I threw it in the washing machine. He's like, holy shit, it works.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But
you
that's
see,
actually kind of a big part of our gym outreach program that we're doing is that we can actually, put 20 carriers together for a gym, right? Like you can
hmm
set them up in there. They can keep them at their gym and then machine wash them with towels,
yep. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Cause I
nobody
mean,
likes putting on a grimy, grungy vest that, you know, like
it's
nobody wants that.
You don't even
got the
want to put
salt
on
stains
your
from like 10 years of Murph now.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
You don't even want to put on your own grimy vest,
Yeah.
not
Right.
just one that's shared in the
yeah,
gym.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. So you guys are trying to make this versatile cuz for everybody in the gym. Like,
right.
hey, we outfit a gym with 5 larges, 5 mediums, 5 smalls. Um wash them, once
Yep,
every 2 weeks or whatever. And now you're able to actually like have something that's functional as a weight
Right.
vest for gyms to program into like their group classes and stuff like
yep,
that.
Like I haven't been in your particular gym, but I've been in some other boxes before, and there's usually like a little rack on the wall where they put the weightlifting belts, right,
Yes.
and maybe the chains and things like that. The little
Yep.
accessories go over here, and everyone knows if you forgot your belt or your hand wraps or whatever, you just go grab some off the rack real quick.
Right.
Yeah, it would be that kind of concept. Like, boom, we need vest today. Cool, here it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, that's great because I think for the most part, like people are getting their vests if they've been at a high level competition and been gifted the vest,
yep,
and it's not getting shared around really. It's like that person's vest, and some of the other ones on the market just aren't. They're not good. So,
yeah.
yeah, to
They're
have
not great.
something that's high quality like that in a gym is going to be huge.
Yeah. So I know you've been actually programming in some different, things with vests and different stuff like that since we came down there and
Hmm.
and set y'all up with some. What have you guys been actually doing training in, right? That, is setting y'all up for success in some of your different competition space.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that gets programmed in CrossFit specifically is just upper body pulling movements.
Yep.
So putting people in vests for those has been huge, and then not having the issue of, like I had a guy a couple years ago that he needed to go through, like a weight vest progression for ring muscle ups and stuff like, and some other upper body pulling movements, and he literally couldn't because his weight vest just kept hitting him in the chin, and so
Yep.
it was like a deficiency in his performance. And now like we're able to do that for people, because they'll have actually the right gear,
Yeah.
and they won't have like it literally won't be like potentially breaking their jaw every time they're going to
Right.
do a muscle up or a pull up or something like that.
I think
So
the
that's kind
other
of, I think, the
aspect
biggest.
too, and something that I definitely like about it as well, and tell me how you feel about it, is the actual mobility factor in the
Mhm.
vest compared to more structured vests.
Yeah.
Um, it for me, it's a big difference, right? Like I've got these long monkey arms,
Right.
um, so you know what I mean. Like it's a big difference when I can actually like reach around and touch my back in
Right.
a vest
Right.
with plates in it. You know what I mean? Like it's a big difference.
Yeah. 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 And I think, it's something that a lot of people might not realize at first, like how how like cumbersome those things are, and it's like
Yeah,
there's not a lot of rotation there. But once you like put yours on, and you're like, oh wow, like this is great. Like I literally haven't lost any range of motion.
yeah,
It just makes movement so much safer in the vest too, because
yeah.
now you're not compensating in some way, shape, or form. So it's
It's still
gonna,
gonna
you
suck though. You know what I mean? Like
oh
you
yeah,
like
for
you
sure.
did just put on a weight vest. I hope
You
you're
still
ready for the run, whatever you're doing.
you still
But
have 20 to 14 pounds or more on you.
yeah.
So
So it's still gonna suck, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
we looked at it when we were designing it and setting it up to give you max comfort in it.
yeah,
Um, and then obviously we use the material on the inners, right? Like you can wear it without a shirt,
yeah, right,
and you get to keep your nipples.
yeah.
So like that's a big thing for me. Because after my entire military career of wearing, military vests, you all know what company I'm talking about if you've ever been in the military in any type of cool capacity. Um, you rub your chest raw after wearing
Hmm.
them for a long period of time. And several other companies have kind of switched over to this method as well,
Hmm.
except for the main one, which is
Hmm.
weird. But it's like, okay, man, like, how do we make an uncomfortable situation as comfortable as we can
Mm-hmm.
without sacrificing durability?
Yeah.
And we did. We figured it out. So, and it was through a lot of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually on version 9 of our
Yeah.
courier system right now. Um, patent lawyer, loves or hates us. I don't know. He's monotoned, but he is definitely had his work cut out for him and setting up to with all the running changes that we've made, and we've been able to do that because we are an actual OEM, right? So when you talk about the differences between the business models and what you do and why there aren't so many OEMs is because it's stupid expensive to actually do. Um, you know what I mean? Like it's difficult, but you're not sitting there waiting on running changes
Mm-hmm.
within your supply chain and your operations chain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we found a problem. We found a stress point. We were testing. This was the issue. Here's the solution. Okay, from this point forward, this is corrected. Let's fix these. They're still under warranty. If they come back in, I'm just replacing them.
Mm-hmm.
And we can actually do that compared to other companies who has another manufacturer who's physically making them.
Yeah.
It's a big
Right.
difference.
Right. Yep. That's super cool. Um, cool. So yeah, you guys have anything else you want to hit on that, or on the fitness side of things, or
No, man.
yeah, if you guys are listening, get these vests. They are the best on the market by far. If that didn't convince you, they're good. so, um, so I guess talk to us a little bit more about or maybe we can get into QRFUp now, and
Yeah.
kind of how is it. Is this like a kind of a stem of Gray Group, or
Nope.
what exactly is this organization?
QRFUp is it is completely separate.
Okay.
Steven and I both do sit on the board of QRFUp.
Hmm.
So just kind of down and dirty of it. Actually, you tell him what QRFUp.
Sure.
Yeah, you run QRFUp. He says it better than I do.
That's fine. Jump in there when you feel like it.
Yeah.
All right. So QRFUp is a nonprofit organization designed to help veterans and first responders when they're in a moment of crisis, usually referring to a mental or emotional moment of crisis.
Hmm.
Right. I think we've all unfortunately known people who chose to take their own life because they felt trapped in some way.
Hmm.
And we don't want that to occur with the rest of the people that we know and love. So
Hmm.
it only takes once for someone very close to you to do that before you're like, okay, this is a fantastically large problem and we need to solve it. And there's so many organizations that I keep running into every single day that are trying to solve the same issue.
Hmm.
Issues arrive, crises happen. Usually it's for a few of the same reasons or the few of the same trigger points. But it does happen. It's astronomical numbers, and you don't want to hear about it. It's not good. So what we're trying to do is basically, if you think of QRFUp as an organization, it goes down basically 2 lanes.
Okay.
We have an application on the phone. It's literally just QRFUp on the Apple App Store and the Android Store. And if there are other stores, it's on there too. But those are the 2 main ones that most people that I know use. So
Mhm.
I have an iPhone. I downloaded the app, and it's just a big red button. That's it. You have a problem, you would show 'em? Yeah.
Yes, I'll pull it up on my
You
phone.
can test it.
All right, perfect.
If you test it, I'll get it.
So it looks just like that, guys.
Perfect.
It's a big red button. So you're having the bad day, you push the button. A therapist picks up the phone. It's not a there are some other organizations that have tried to use a similar model. For
Mhm.
example, 988 is the National Suicide Hotline. It has a very large structure to it, but the problem they keep running into is the high volume of calls. They can't service all of the people who are reaching out to them
Mhm.
in a timely manner. They just don't have enough bandwidth to handle all of the issues that are coming their way. And so we're providing a very rapid response, and a therapist picks up the phone, talks to that person, and they can also uh, basically initiate the other component, the second branch of QRFUp, which is mobile response teams.
Okay.
So think we use the term responder. Imagine that Steven Sampson is a responder. He did some training. He understands some crucial things when talking to people who are in a crisis like that, and things that I need to be aware of, and best ways to help them. And I will get essentially an Amber Alert or something very similar to it on my phone through my QRFUp app. It says, "Hey, 40 miles from you, there's this person in crisis. Boom, they need some help." So that person's talking to a therapist on the phone, and most of the situations get resolved just by talking to a therapist in that moment, because they're high quality people that know exactly what they're talking about, and they're very experienced in that field, and that's what they do all day.
Right.
Right. So that usually solves the problem. But if you want someone to help you also in person, who might be a veteran who speaks infantry or whatever your language may be, right? Um, that sometimes really helps,
Yeah.
especially in a scenario where maybe someone's trigger point was, their family left due to whatever, and now their house got sold, and now they're just stuck. They have their truck, maybe a dog, and they need someone to help them just kind of move their stuff to get back to their hometown or whatever. They need somebody to help load their truck up, and someone to talk to in the process. Cool.
Yeah.
Steve can do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hey, buddy, I'm on the way. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Keep talking to the therapist. I'm on the way. And then boom, I can go help. That model alone of having a therapist on the phone and someone coming to help them is at 84, 85% stabilization rate.
Wow.
And then there is a third branch of QRFUp, which is all of our partners, right? I'm going to delineate here. We have sponsors who provide, fundraising support. But we have partners, which are a whole bunch of other, a ridiculous amount. We have a couple of
271
wow.
in total, I believe, other organizations between sponsors and partners that we're working with.
So
that's awesome.
Partners, many of whom you've heard of before, many of whom you have not, are usually nonprofits who provide some form of therapy or some form of helping someone redesign their identity. Because if we're the tip of the spear, you have a crisis, we help you in that moment. What happens 3 weeks later?
Yeah. Okay.
What happens in 4 months? I know this is a bit long-winded, but we
this is good.
direct them to the right partner that's best for them, whether it's equine therapy, surfing as a form of therapy.
Awesome.
There are so many.
Yeah. Plus, we can actually get people in an outpatient therapy as well.
Yep.
Which any of y'all in the military service or anything like that have tried to deal with the VA or done anything along those lines, it took me 7 months to get an appointment. Right? So
sweet.
7 months just to get an initial appointment. That's not into a program. That's my initial appointment.
Yeah.
Right? This could be a major shift to that, and getting people into actual programs and aligning them for success, right? And the main kind of purpose behind this and my why, right? Like everybody wants to know the why, right? Why does Mark spend 20% of his time on QRFUp? You know what I mean? Not strictly focus on business. We need to change the narrative of what veterans are in our community. Simple as that, because one, I'm tired of my friends committing suicide and killing themselves. Right? Steve and I were just at a funeral last week for another one. So if y'all want to know the why, that's it. I just had number 40 come last week. Right? And I can't do it anymore, man. Like, I can't. Like, we have got to change the narrative of what veterans are in the community, because they have so many things to offer, and they have so many things that they can thrive on, right, that will change and better this country, that we're not tapping into, because we're just looking at them and looking at PTSD as, oh, they're a broken toy in the corner. Right? They're just going to go crazy or ballistic in here or do any of these things. It's not how it works, man. And majority of the folks that are on that level, you know what I mean? They need help, and they need to be put into a program.
Right.
We facilitate that. Right? So, but majority of folks are not there, and we don't show the signs or symptoms that everybody else does. We don't You know what I mean? Like, we don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
We are men of, and women, excuse me, we're men and women of action. And if that's the option that we seek, they're just going to execute and they're going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get ahead of that, and we need to change the stigma of what veterans are, what PTSD is, and how do we best employ them within our community to actually be successful. Because I assure you, go hire a veteran. They will outwork everybody in your organization.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of veterans, what you assumed would take a year to a year and a half to get something done, 45 days,
Yeah, right.
deployed appropriately. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a huge difference, and that's the real why, man. Like, it's huge, and we need to get it out there to, one, do the immediate action and stop it, and
Mm-hmm.
then two, change the stigma of what this is in our country,
Yeah,
right? You know, we get the thank you for your services, and we get all that.
right.
That's great, and we appreciate it, right? And I know you get it too, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that is, but at the end of the day, we also don't want the pity aspect of that. We want to be employed appropriately and find that purpose that we had at one point. Because
Yeah.
once you lose your purpose, what else do you have?
Yep. Yep.
So that's what QRFUp is for us, and why we're so vested with it, because it's going to make a difference, and it's going to save our friends,
Yeah.
and it's going to better our country.
Yes.
We tested it. We ran a trial test for the sake of gathering all the data to see if the model worked. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We did it in Minnesota, and I think the month of August. The numbers are escaping me right now off the cuff. You might remember because you've been in some of those calls too. But it was astronomically successful in that particular spot. And what happened was, Minnesota's pretty rural areas. You know, throughout it, there's a lot of space. If we
Mm-hmm.
did it in a place like Atlanta, I can go help someone in 5 minutes because they're right down the street. Like, boom, easy win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's an urban environment. But in a place like Minnesota, it does have a lot of little towns that are spread out.
Right.
And so we use the golden hour sequence from the military background, which the context of that basically is someone gets injured or wounded in some form of conflict in a military environment. You have about an hour to get them to the next higher level of medical care.
Mm-hmm.
So get the helicopters in, get them on it, get them patched up real quick, and get them to the next hospital if you can. Usually not, but next level of care. Someone can take care of it, and if you get them within that hour, they're like the numbers are stupidly high that they're going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go beyond the hour, that's not necessarily the case.
Mm-hmm.
They're stupidly high that they won't.
I'm not a medical professional. I just got people to helicopters, right?
Yeah.
But same basic concept. So in Minnesota, our average response time, out of 1,300 calls, give or take a little bit, in a month, was 41 minutes and 10 seconds. So it's within that golden hour window. Someone is physically, boom, right there talking to you. So that model helped a lot.
We had a 60% were all able to be de-escalated just by strictly getting on the line with the therapist.
Wow.
And then the other 40% had, different involvement from our responder force, as well as police force. I don't think we actually kind of caveated into that as well too. Yeah. There is an option, if y'all saw when I held my phone up, it said 911 with a toggle on it. You can choose whether you want 911 support or not when you call that in.
Okay.
And it's important, right? Because case in point, you're a first responder, you're a police officer, you're something like this. As soon as you ask for help, your career's done. It's over, right? And that's why most people don't ever ask for help. Case in point, right here, 15 years in the Army, asked for help, no longer in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I lost my career because I hit a certain point in my mental health path that I needed help. I needed to get into some type of therapy. I needed to do something. You know what I mean? Like I was having panic attacks on my shower and shit. It was bad.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, hey guys, I need help. I need to go do this. And I was kind of forced to go do it, right, by a good mentor and a friend of mine. But you know what I mean? It cost me my career,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's the same thing in the first responder world. It's the same thing in the military world. It's the same for all of us. So you have an option of, having them come too or not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and because not only do we do this for the veterans and the first responders and active duty service members, but it's also for their families. So if you're a direct family member of them, you can have this app on your phone as well too.
Mm.
And you can use it with that family member or for yourself. So it's a tool to have. And kind of what I always tell people too is like, look, man, like you can be a responder for QRFUp. We always need more responders,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is not a full-time job. It's not anything like that. Yeah, you got to go do a little bit of training on psych armor. It's, you hop on, you go through the online training, you knock it out. You're an active responder, right? If somebody comes up within a 100-mile radius of you that needs help, you get the notification and you're like, okay, I can't help right now. I'm in the middle of X, Y, and Z. You just don't respond to it because that
Okay.
notification went out in a 100-mile radius of that person.
Yeah.
And it'll pop up that somebody else did respond that said they can make it to it. If you do want to respond, you just say, yes, I want to respond. And boom, it patches you right in with a phone call.
That's awesome.
Right? So it is, at the end of the day, it is veterans and first responders helping each other.
Yeah.
And setting up that line of communication to be successful together. Because just because, I'm having a good day today and I'm on top of the world doesn't mean my world's not going to fall apart tomorrow because this is life and that's how it works.
Right.
Right? So at some point, just because I went and did 10 responses, in the last month, like, cool, I'm doing great, I may need to be responded to at some point too. I may need that additional support or help. And that's okay, man. Like that is what it is for. It is building a network and a community that QRFUp is like the cognitive of it, that we can, align everything to just make everybody involved successful.
Yeah.
The bottom line is like it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
As long as you raise your hand up and ask for help.
Yep.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you guys kind of going about breaking that stigma? Because I think that's like Mark, obviously you talked about like losing your career over that, right? Like, and I think that's just kind of the mindset of somebody in the military is like, just don't ask for help ever. Like, how are you guys going about and kind of getting the word out that it's okay to ask for help?
So currently, right, like current model is that we are doing it not directly through the organizations. We are a completely self-funded organization at this point. We are searching sponsorship and we are doing those things so that way we can build that line of communication and comfort level of getting help and not having it reported everywhere.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
That's phase one, right? So, because first we've got to build that and make sure that system is working nationally throughout our national launch process, right? Secondly, is we are building the reputation for that, and we are going to start pushing out different lines of communication to other business owners, as well as directly with the military and with the different police departments and everything like that, kind of on a two-pronged front, right? In the first responder and police departments world, I'd like to start communicating with them of one, how to respond to veterans in crisis, right? We all understand, we all know that you have policies and procedures that you have to follow, right? At the end of the day, you need to make sure you're protecting yourself in those situations. Fully understand it, right? But there are certain ways to talk to veterans and to say certain things that will help pull them out of it. And we want to start communicating that to those departments and then showing that there are better de-escalation measures to get things done. You know what I mean? We see the videos all the time about, how somebody saved a veteran and they did this and they did that. What they don't talk about is, my buddy Danny, who had a mental breakdown in a Walmart and got into a fist fight with two cops because they came at him and they came at him hard and aggressive. Now he went to jail for that because he assaulted a peace officer. You know what I mean? Like, and Not saying that he was right in that aspect,
Right.
right? He
Right.
was not right. But if it had been handled differently, he wouldn't have made the situation worse for himself when
Mm-hmm.
he was not in the right state of mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we need to look at and view things differently, and then we need to advocate for how veterans can actually change and work better in business as well as in the rest of the community. And I think when people start seeing what those capabilities truly are and
Mm-hmm.
understanding how to mitigate some of that, other issues that, people handle and truly learn what PTSD is, it will change that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because everybody hears PTSD and they immediately think combat PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You go and you're driving down the highway and Steve gets into a car accident. It's a bad accident, right? Now Steve has a fear of being on the highway, in traffic because he was in a bad car accident of it. And
Mm-hmm.
it changes how you drive on the highway or that you just avoid the highway to take a different route because you feel more comfortable about it.
Interesting.
Guess what? That's PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Everybody has a slight form of PTSD to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just depends on what type it is
Mm-hmm.
and how it affects you and changes your life, right? But now I look at PTSD a little bit different, especially when it comes to combat PTSD, right? Because we think differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we have a conversation, we go into a business meeting, we go into different things. Our mindset and our way of thinking is different, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
adds to businesses and corporations as well as, different emergency services, everything like that. It adds a very unique perspective to business, right? Because if you come strictly from a corporate setting and you're, let's say, working through an acquisition merger, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
saying that, that's happening right now, but, right, you look at it from what you know, right? People
Mm-hmm.
can only see things from their own vantage points.
Right.
Um, But what you know isn't everything. And if you ever think you're the smartest person in the room, you're not. So when you actually apply different members of your team who have completely different vantage points and think through processes different,
Mm-hmm.
your decision making process is completely changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now you can actually make effective decisions and create a strategy that is going to beat out what is the normal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we actually change what the stigma of combat PTSD or PTSD is.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
people aren't educated about it. They
Right.
hear it, they're like, oh, it's combat PTSD. He's a crazy soldier. He's white and he's got tattoos and, he looks all wild and now he has long hair and, he's freaking out, right? Guess what? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Like, all right, cool. You're right. I have PTSD. 100%. I do.
Yeah.
But I'm also a successful business owner.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I'm also, working as, head of one of a main nonprofit in these certain spaces. We've also fired off another nonprofit, and I'm also wading through, the corporate world through A&M right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you can be successful, you can do things. You just have to learn how to, empower it and surround
Mm-hmm.
yourself with the right people.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, man, that was long-winded.
That was great.
I went on
Uh,
a tangent.
no, I think that was perfect. I think that's going to give a great detail and great glimpse into kind of what you guys do as an organization, and just I think for a lot of people, like you were saying, Mark, is it's just education. Like they just
Yeah.
don't know, and uh, you know, I think when you before you join the military, you have this preconceived notion of it, and then when you actually get in, you're like, oh, this is way different
Yeah.
than what I could have ever imagined. And so you have, like in the civilian world, they still don't know, and so the more you can do to educate and talk through it and give people perspective, I think the better they're just going to start understanding and learning more about what veterans can bring to a company, and just some of the struggles that they go through as well. So
Yeah.
that was good. That was good. What? So I guess into the future, you guys are acquisition and merger. You got QRFUp Organization. You just said you just launched a new kind of nonprofit as well. Do you guys have anything else on the books? I know that's a lot, but you guys seem to be moving fast and just breaking shit. So
That's one of the key,
Yeah.
like the way we work. Period.
All right,
is-
Steve, hit him with it.
Speed to action. That's the answer.
yeah.
That's the delineator, no matter what you're doing, for profit, non-profit, anything at all, running a household,
Mm-hmm.
keeping your truck fixed, like whatever it may be, speed to action is the answer, because most of us, my opinion at least, most of us have a pretty good thought.
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh, I have a really good idea about how I could do this thing or something I should get done or ought to do. I just don't feel enough like doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most you're ever going to feel like that thing.
Yep.
That's the best you'll ever feel about doing it. So if you want to do it at all, you have to do something about it right now, because the
Yeah.
momentum is the key.
Yeah.
If you can start doing it now, it's just like at the gym that you run, right? People don't feel like doing something at 5:15 in the morning for the early class. I don't know if you guys offer 5 a.m. classes or not, but some people do. Whatever,
Yeah.
the first class in the morning.
Right.
No one feels like being there on a Tuesday. It sucks, right? But when you show up, you start moving, you start doing the warm-up, you showed up anyway. Now you feel like it. You got momentum and you're winning. But speed is absolutely crucial to that. So we talk about something, we have an idea, cool, speed, do something about it right now today. And then we celebrate the win at the end of the day. Okay, good. We at least made this progress towards it. Now it is something. It's not perfect, but it's something.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and just kind of detail orientating out what those goals look like, right? And starting at the end state of what you want. And then, figuring out like, okay, Steve and I had this great idea today, right? Like, how do we go and take that and turn it into something? Well, we need to execute these 5 different principles or products in order to get this moving, right? So that's huge. You know what I mean? So, but main things on the horizon, for us right now, really is kind of working through this acquisition merger, and setting up, where we want to be here in the next couple of years, right?
Yeah.
We've got our base structure of the pyramid. We need to kind of keep rolling that out, and opening up different funnels and covering different industries, and not just strictly inclusive of manufacturing. So, yeah.
We want to break pretty hard into the fitness space as well.
Yeah.
As we kind of mentioned earlier, because it ties in with all of the things we've been talking about today.
Yeah.
Like, no one that listens to your podcast needs to understand the value of fitness because they already get that.
Right.
But tying it into things like where we're working in QRFUp, right? The veteran space and the first responder space, their jobs in the past, and especially for the active duty folks, like right now, it is a huge component of what they need to do, at least the functional fitness aspect. You got to move stuff. You got to move yourself. You don't want to be a liability to your team. You want to be an asset. Can you pick up another person and run with them? That's important.
Yeah.
And so if you exit the military or you exit a police department or you exit a fire department or anything else like that, and you lose that fitness component, a huge piece of your identity is gone.
Right.
And so as people do that transition phase, I'm leaving this thing that I knew. Maybe it's the angel maybe it's a devil it doesn't matter. It's something you're familiar with. And you redesign, who do you want to be? Or who are you at your core? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That fitness component can be the only thing you cling to.
Right.
And if it is, it's a good answer. It's
Yeah.
a great foundation to move from, because you're probably one of the few people at your age, whatever that may be, that has that foundation today. I mean,
Correct.
And so that helps you, like, if you keep that fitness foundation or get better at it. I know some of us, like, when you're stuck on you were probably stuck on a cop in Afghanistan for a long time and unable to maintain your deadlift because you didn't have the equipment to do so.
Oh no, we did. That was
you
first
did.
thing. We had that before shower trailers.
Oh, good for you. Never mind.
Yeah. No, that's
priorities.
One.
Or if you're going to the field all the time for training exercises, you don't have a bench. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, your bench press is now getting weaker, but you at least can keep some stuff together. Keep that fitness component. It bleeds into business. It bleeds into school. Maybe I'm doing school at night, right? At the end of the workday. Okay. well, since I knew that I woke up this morning and did squats today, I'm that guy who can do the stuff that doesn't want to do the thing. He doesn't feel like it, but it still needs to get done. And so I can do the thing. And
Mhm.
taking that for veterans and first responders and keeping it is super important. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. No, man, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with it, right? Like at the end of the day, like your body is always going to be your business card,
Mhm.
right? And when you walk into, you know, a space and you're here to conduct business, you're here to, show up and be like represent your organization, right? Like you're either going to come in looking well put together,
Mhm.
with good posture and standing up and saying what you need to say, or you're going
Mhm.
to come in looking sloppy. It's
Mhm.
one of the two. So and taking care of your physical health is perpetual of taking care of your mental health.
Right.
So I think kind of where we're running with this though, to shore up with your question, is we are looking at vertically and horizontally integrating everything that we have put together at this point to where we're able to put a touch point on all of it, right? To
Yeah.
where, you know, QRFUp has nothing to do with Grey Group. They're completely separate entities.
Mhm.
The only connection between them is us, right?
Right.
So, but with that, right, like I'm gonna sponsor your event for Grey Group, right? But we're doing that to help QRFUp.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And if we
Yep.
can continue to conduct business in that manner,
Mhm.
right, like not only can things be profitable, but you can be profitable doing the right thing.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
yes, is it a little bit harder? Yep, you got to work harder. Well, welcome to America, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like the American dream isn't for everybody. You got to fucking
Right.
work for it. You don't get it for free.
Right. Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And I
So
think
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that I think that concept of doing things the right way and still getting the outcome at the end of the day. Yes, you have to work harder for it is a little bit of a lost art. And so it's nice to hear that that's kind of being brought back into business spaces as well. So
yeah, don't come over to Grey Group and not expect to work hard.
right.
Like, she's like, oh god, I'm so tired.
That's never what I sound like.
Yeah, I know. He's actually the one calling me at 11 o'clock. Hey, I just had this idea. Like, oh, what is it? All
What is
right, damn it! All right, I'm going to the office.
Hey, do it now.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
it? That's
So,
sweet. That's sweet.
but yeah, man, I think with the kind of phase three of the outreach for Gray is getting those centers put up
Mhm.
across the United States. Obviously, we want to put one right here in Georgia.
Yep.
We'll have one down in Florida, and then we're gonna have one out west, and then one probably down in Texas.
Awesome.
But I think that's kind of a key component too, is meeting the right people along the way.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that you and I have met for the right
Mhm.
reasons,
For sure.
and we're kind of both of that same mindset. And as
Yep.
we kind of figure out what these centers look like, I want to put a fitness component to them,
Yeah.
and you are the person I'm going to call to be
Awesome.
like, hey, maybe we want to get a blacklisted gym in all of these different centers to
Yeah.
help promote this functional fitness program as well as these other programs. Hey, I just had the conversation, with Jim, who owns Valor Fitness, right?
Mhm.
Guess what? Now we have the direct connection of getting all the equipment we need,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
for those
Right.
gyms
Yeah.
and setting all that stuff up, right? Like the world is all about connections
Mhm.
and meeting people. And if you show who you are and you're, an authentic person who's just real,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, hey, I want to do this. Okay, well, shit, I can't do this right now because I've got 10 other things going on, but I can get it this time. Let's do it this way, right?
Mhm.
You're just authentic with people about it, of like, okay, let's get it done.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
with that vision of all these centers that he was talking about, like you can go shoot stuff, you can go climb stuff, you can go lift weights. Basically, you can just be better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That's sweet.
With a country club-esque. All right. Because I'm getting a little bougie now, right? Like, don't let my Chuck Tays fool you.
We got some fireside leather chairs.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I
Heck
mean?
yeah. There we go.
I've seen an example of that. It was really cool.
Yes, yes. So the little country club esque, right?
Yeah.
With where you can go up and get some food and eat and, wine and dine and do whatever.
Yeah.
In the upstairs area, but yet you can still go down and, you can shoot. You can, run through some different training courses. We'll probably have some obstacle course stuff out there, a little
Yeah.
bit more in that kind of functional space. And then wellness centers on the same property, right?
That's
So,
awesome.
and that's kind of a big component that I want to start rowing at is not only do you have the center, right? And that's a for-profit thing, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd
Mm-hmm.
also like to, put in and build out something for a wellness center on there as well too, to
Yeah.
help out in the space that we work in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Anybody that's ever heard anything from me, I work in a couple different nonprofit spaces. Obviously the veteran space, the actual like kind of trauma recovery space, and then human trafficking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I don't like the fact that that's a major pandemic that's going on within our country,
Right.
and we need to grow it being better and putting a stop to it,
Yeah,
right? So,
for
how
sure.
do we do that? Is we work with the organizations who actually get it done, and however we can help and work in that space is huge.
Yeah.
So, anybody that wants to, get out there and help support some of those things, you can direct message me on the Instagrams, or my email's up on Grey Group website. Hit us up, but we directly support War Party and in their efforts to kind of shut that down, as well as obviously we're members of QRFUp, and then we have the Trauma Recovery Alliance coming up out of Florida, that we're kind of founding. So, but that one's kind of a slow rolling process right now,
For
but
sure.
more will be coming out with it, and that's kind of on the wellness center for the
Yeah.
long term strategy that we're setting up at the other centers that we're looking to put up across the country.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Well, sweet guys. Thanks a ton for this. This was
Yeah, of course. Man.
this was really fun. Very insightful as well. So, do you guys have anything else you kind of want to add here before we jump off, or?
No, man. If you guys are looking at getting into gear, you can absolutely go in and check out our website. It's www.greygrouptactical.com. It's GREY, just to be clear. Because people like to spell it with an A. I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, so you can hop on our website, check out all the gear. We've got a bunch of different bundles coming up, and definitely look out for our Black Friday sales. It's gonna blow y'all's minds. You're gonna love it. Um, it's going to be pretty big. Any of the gyms or programs or anything like that do see this, that want to get into our gym outreach program, we've got some of that stuff set up. And then any other kind of business owners or anything that are more in the tactical space, we actually did just start a new business net 90 program. So that way we can set you up with a full package of stuff coming out of all of our OEM manufacturing, not just nylon,
Nice.
but everything. So when we're setting that up with a net 90 contract, to get some of you guys helped out and off the grounds, especially our veteran business owners.
Sweet. Awesome. Yeah. How do you guys find you on Instagram as well?
Yep. So I am at Grey Group 6_Mark,
And I'm at Grey Group 5_Samson.
Awesome. Sweet.
Or you can follow the business one, which is just at Grey Group Tech.
Sweet. And then you guys have one for QRFUp as well,
We
right?
do. It is
at QRFUp.organization.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thanks again for coming on, guys. This was great. Looking forward to seeing just kind of some of the big things you guys are doing in the future here. It sounds pretty exciting. So
yeah, absolutely, man. We are super excited. We appreciate you kind of having us in, and we're looking forward to the event coming up.
likewise.
Yep.
Awesome. We'll catch you guys next time here.